Good morning.
I'm Bob Surrett, member of the board of the society.
Not just a minute. Say what you are, admit to it. All of us have gone down the
The
road.
former president 5 times.
No.
Wanted me to say that the president of the
And
historical.
it's wonderful that Bob's president.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to start our second Tuesday talk, 2 minutes after 10:30. I learned from Liz that you do not punish the people who are on time because of the people who are late. So we're going to start off. I want to thank you for coming. Also want to tell you that Musette Steck, who has been my partner in the second Tuesday talk, is going to be honored by the Board of Aldermen Thursday at about 6:10, and the meeting is at the community building. So if you'd like to come and attend that and help honor Musette, that would be great.
Then you can get the heck out of there before they start cussing and fighting.
That's it. We'll be right at the beginning of the meeting. Today, our program is the Brunswick County Training School band that I've seen called the Pride of Southport, and we're fortunate to have Donnie Joyner. Donnie Joyner is quite a guy and quite a historian here in Southport. So I know you're going to enjoy this presentation. Donnie, would you come up here? You can't do it from back there.
If you give me a remote clicker, I could. Thank you, Bob.
Yes, sir.
I'll pay you later. Good morning, everybody. I appreciate everybody who came out because with what's going on with SARS and all that, a lot of people don't want to be out in the crowds. And I have 2 special guests here, which I'm going to roll in underneath the same bus that I got rolled underneath. These are 2 of my relatives on my mother's side. Now, in Southport, you've heard the story that I'm kin to everybody. Well, almost. There's only like 3 people in here I'm not kin to. And that is Mrs. Joyce Reed. She's a Forward, but that's a married name, and that's her nephew, Marion. Marion and I went to school together, and we graduated together. Okay, Brunswick County Training School, BT School Band. Let's see if I can get this other slide. Maybe. Well, you got a shadowing mouse here, man. Okay, hold on a second. I'm not going to get it. Let me do this anyway. Hold on a second. 1 second. If this don't work, we have another one. Oh, okay, so you. Oh, is left-handed? Oh, I'm sorry. He's got a left-handed mouse. Okay. And my esteemed colleague. First thing we're going to discuss a little bit about is the band directors. Now, this band, the BCT band, had 4 band directors in my life. Now, you got to remember, I got out of high school in 1967. So we do have a picture of 1970, but there were 4 band directors. First one was named Sylvester Stephen Riggs Jr. The next was Robert Dilworth, John H. Finney, and Ralph Harrison Parker. Most of you are familiar with Ralph Harrison Parker. And we'll be getting back into those a little bit. But first, make sure I got this here. Bob, hold on. I think I got it. It says the left button.
The right button.
There it is.
Okay, I got it. It's the left right button. Sylvester Stephen Riggs Jr. He was the band director from 1953 to 1958. He got the band started. And to tell you when it first started a little bit, imagine this. Oh, that's not my phone. Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right. Mr. Riggs was the first band director, and the school hired him in 1953. He was a minister's son. I think he was about 5 feet 9 inches tall. But one of the things about Mr. Riggs, he was a student of John Philip Sousa's music. So, man, most of the music that they did at the beginning at BTT was marching music, John Philip Sousa style. Now, back in the late 50s, they started with the Azalea Festival, and we'll get into that in a few moments. And every year, they would go to the Azalea Festival. Now, since Mr. Riggs was a component of John Philip Sousa, there was no jazzing it up. It was straight out marching music. And I got this information from a cousin and a friend who was in the original band. And they said that John Philip Sousa was the one that they used. Now, the first uniforms. Now, because Brunswick County said that their budget was poor, and even though it was separated but equal, and the same money shared, because actually in 1940, Southport High had a band, but it disbanded. Their first uniform consisted of a white shirt, black tie, dark blue slacks, gold sweater with a treble clef emblem on it, white socks and black shoes. That was it. And that was the uniform they had. And there was a story that Harry D told me, and you'll see his picture in a minute, about when they went to the first band recital. They come in with their little homemade outfits on, because remember, this band is less than 2 years old. And they have all these bands in this big contest where excellent score is a 1. So when they got up to play, all the other bands, and you know, kids out there were laughing because they didn't have uniforms, the others had beautiful uniforms. They got up to play, Mr. Riggs started hitting John Philip Sousa music, and at the end, they got a 1. Nobody else laughed at them again. And they show you how well they were, sort of hard to see this picture. This was in the Southport pilot back in the mid-50s. The gentleman right here in that picture is Ralph Harrison Parker. He was the lead chair as a clarinet player. And they played down at it was a regular meeting of the Lions Club. It was in, I think it's called the USO building, which is now the community building. And that was the band. That band was less than 2 years old when they played there. Most of the people that you see in this picture are in their 80s or either deceased. And this was, I think, about 1954, because my cousin Richard Jackson, he finished high school in 55, and he's in that photo back in the trombone section. But it was the pride of Southport, and especially the black school, because the PTA was the driving force in the black school, because if you couldn't get the money from the county, you had to get it from somewhere else. And one of the things about, I'm just going off a little bit of script here about the PTA, it consisted of parents from Southport, Bolivia. I think parts of supply back then was still there, because in 1950, the students that used to come from Charlotte and all those had stayed here, they left and went to Union, and the ones in Leland, they went to Lincoln. All right, here we go. Can't remember, get this thing just right. Okay, they played at local nightclubs to help raise money for the school band. What that is, Mr. Riggs allowed a few of his students, one of them was, you'll see this picture in a moment, Harry D. Oh, I'll just flip it over now. Keep you out of suspense. These are two of the original band members. Gentleman on the left is my first cousin, Richard Henry Jackson. It's one of Melissa Jackson's great-grandson. And the gentleman on the right is Harry D. Price. And they told me this story. Now, that picture was taken off of a video I did of them. It's 2.5 hours long. They just sat there and talked. They hadn't seen each other in 30 or 40 years. Because Richard is a retired Air Force. He spent, I think, about 20-some years in the Air Force. And Harry worked in New York. And he worked for a Jewish synagogue. And he's retired, now he's in Florida. And they were talking about the band, how it started, that only about 3 people in there had any music experience. Ralph Parker was one, and I think he said Gene Frank, and somebody else. But I got it on the video, but the video was too long to play. And they started talking about when they go off, they remember the very first song that they learned how to play. Now you gotta remember this, both of them are in their 80s. I can't even remember what happened last week. But that's something that happened that long ago. But they had the pride that was instilled in them by Mr. Riggs. In fact, Southport High School, I understand, had offered Mr. Riggs a job to come from the black school to go down to Southport High to teach the students to play. And he refused. He decided he was going to stay right there. Glad he did. I'm going to have some room for some question time. BTT and Williston High School Band, 2A versus 5A. And you got to remember, Williston High School was established in the 1800s. BCT's, Brunswick County Training School, was established in 1920. And every Azalea Festival, and my good friend and cousin Marion can attest to that, those two bands were always competing with each other. Now, go ahead, what you got?
So 2A and 5A.
That's schools. In other words, 2A, yeah, 2A school versus a 5A school.
2A smaller?
Oh yeah, way smaller. I think I forget exactly how many students you have to be a 5A school, but I know Williston had more than 1,000 or so. BCT had less students in Union, and it was a 2A school. It went from a 1A back in the 30s to a 2A by the time we got there. And that was the big thing. Now, trying to find some of these pictures is very hard because when they integrated the schools in 1972, because BTT was the last all predominantly black high school to be left because Southport High burned, as Liz said, in '69. Instead of preserving the records, they took them in boxes, put them in the trash can. When they went to Union, they took them in boxes, put them in the trash can, and Lincoln took them in boxes, put them in the trash can. The reason I know, when I got back home, I went up to the Board of Education and I asked the lady, and she says, and you will find them scattered all around. We're trying to do an effort now to bring back some of these artifacts because Art Newton, for anybody knowing about Southport, had done a lot of pictures at BCT. That first one you saw when they were playing at the Lions Club, that was Art Newton's picture. But no one can find that anymore. Now this picture right here, I don't know whether it's Art Newton's, it's coming up, or whose, but this was another picture that has, this picture was taken probably, that was in the 50s. The young lady with no hat on is Priscilla Moore. Gay is her married name now. She would have been here today when she had a doctor's appointment. She was in the 3rd grade when she was a major. Now the young lady in the back, in the far left, with the trumpet, is Mary Lil Gore, Wigfall. Any of you who knows Knee-High, the tallest man in Southport, that was his daughter. She was in the original band. She still plays trumpet. The young lady on the right side, well actually that's Bureau May Hill, another cousin of mine, is on Mary Lil's right, and the last one on the right in the back row happens to be Knee-High's niece. Her name was Erla Hankins Parker. On that picture, I know that there's 2 deceased. Bureau Hill and Erla Parker, they're both deceased. Now, I think one of the other majorettes with the, I call it the hats called from Philip Morris hats on, I believe that was Beverly Ann Price. She's also deceased. Now, the one that's closest in the front, I don't know who she is. That picture was taken around 1955. We are slowly getting the pictures back in here. And the sad thing about it is, there's a young man, well, he's not young, he's deceased now, named Nathaniel Dinkins. He had a lot of pictures from the 50s about the band. And it's gone. So we're trying to get together with some things and have some of the people that still are able to speak about it, talk about it, and put it into something like a documentary. And you remember I said that the first uniforms were made? Let me show you one of them. Now don't tell her I showed you this picture. That is Anna Mae Brown Clemens. That what you see there is her outfit was made by her mother. Because the school had the outfits, the dresses. Miss Mary Brown said, no, that's too short, you're not wearing that. So she took it to seamstress and she made her an outfit. Anna Mae played drums in the original band. See, there were women playing drums back then. When you see her now, you might ask about it, but she might tell you, and then again she might not. But what they had to do to get this band together, because now don't get the idea it was all just Southport. They took 5 minutes from each class to create a band period at the end so that the students who rode the bus could play in the band. Now when Anna was going to school, she lived in Jabbertown and she had to walk because the road wasn't paved, and the superintendent says any road that's not paved, no buses go down. So they walked. They lived about a mile out. They walked to school. But she was a drummer for them. But this band consisted of a lot of people. Not only Southport, Bolivia, Winnebago, all of them. It made up the band. And if you have any questions, just stop me, because I'm going to leave some time at the end so you can ask all the questions you want. Now this young man I'm going to show you next was Julian Ball. All his friends called him Coot. Don't ask me why they call him Coot. But Julian died last year. I've been trying to get with him for like 3 years. He's living out on the West Coast. He became a professional musician because my cousin Richard Jackson, I asked him, I said, what about the original band? He said the best player on the band was Coot. So I said, okay, Coot. Okay, who is Coot? He said Julian Ball. And I asked several, and he said yes. And then I finally found him and some information about him. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He just recently died. And these were some of the students that Mr. Riggs had. There was an interesting story they told that said that the neck on his saxophone, I think he was at that time he was playing, I think it was tenor sax. And he said the necks were sort of loose. And so when they were marching or something, and when he stopped playing, the neck would swing around and he'd have to bring it back up and catch it and not miss nothing. But then they knew that he was good. And see, one of the things that a lot of people didn't know about this band, all the instruments had to be, they were sort of ragtag, and that's why Mr. Riggs and I said they played, they helped the band, Richard Jackson, and it was Ralph Parker, Harry D. Price, a gentleman named Raymond Parker, they call him Snooky. They went out and they played at every juke joint in Southport, and they raised money to help with the in-body instruments and also help them get their first band uniforms. Because, well, second band uniform, because the first one was homemade. In fact, the home economics instructor, Mrs. Morris, she made the cheerleaders' outfits, and she also made the majorettes' outfits. And she made the banner.
She made those outfits that we just saw up there, those girls wearing?
Yeah, I believe that was what she was, something she was making, yeah. She was the home economics teacher. Because you gotta remember one thing about Brunswick County Training School, at that time, you had vocational training. Now, I can truly say this without any reservation. I took up bricklaying, and I wasn't that good. There's somebody in here that was real good at it. I did all right, but if you wanted something built and laid with bricks, get my cousin to do it. Don't ask me. If you get me to do it, you know what that was going to look like. I was good on the book end, but on the manual, But yeah, they had, the girls took home economics, the boys took agriculture, which included auto mechanics, electricity, all that. Oh, they took bricklaying. It was first 2 years, and then by the time we got into I think it was 11th grade, we wanted to get out, but we couldn't get out. They pulled us back in because if we all had got out, they had shut the class down. And now I see people coming up, I see some of our legislators saying, we have a great idea. Let's do vocational training. And I just started laughing. That's what we were doing in the first place. You know? That's what we were doing. I mean, Ralph Parker, I'll be talking about him quite a bit. He won the bricklaying contest here in the state, and then he went to the nationals in Alabama. He was like, Ralph Parker was a unique individual, but this gentleman right here, Judy Plum, he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'm trying to get with his wife, but she's still living. But all of this came out of a little van that didn't have enough money in the school's budget to buy uniforms or instruments. And so that's why when Mr. Riggs came up with the idea, because he had tough students that were real good, they formed a little, like a jazz band, and they played clubs. And when they got the money, at the end of the year, my cousin, William Clemens, they call him Buster, he was a drummer, presented the check to Mr. Cadmus to help buy equipment for the band. Because, like I said, it was in the 50s, they got the band, but they had a choral society ever since it started. All right. Now this right here, this one slide right here, you remember when Liz told you about the problem in the class of 1970? This is what it was all about. Two things: war, march of the priests, pomp and circumstances. Now, for years, everybody who graduated from BCT, especially after 1961 when we built our gymnatorium. A lot of people call it the gymnasium, but it's actually a gymnatorium, the auditorium built into it. When the graduating class would come up, we'd all line up in that little vestibule. And correct me, Marion, if I'm wrong. Mr. Harry O'Reilly, another World War II veteran, we had quite a few of those teachers, would stand in the doorway, and he could see lined up with Ralph Parker. And when everybody outside had calmed down and settled in, when he hit the note, you had a bass drum, sort of like a bass drum roll. You heard the song, War March, da 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 da. Well, it would start, and we would march in. And since the classes were small, I think we had about 47 in our classes, you didn't march in with pomp and circumstances like they do now. Because if you did, it'd take all about 2 minutes to get everybody in there. You know, when you got 40 students, so they played War March of the Priests. And Mr. Parker played it at a slower tempo to give the time for everybody to get in, for their parents to see them, take pictures and all. On the way out, pomp and circumstances. Because they figured, okay, it's time to go now. It's time for the party. You know, the parents, but the kids, they just want to get out. And for those who had cars to get a car, they head to Atlantic Beach or somewhere. That's as far as I'm going with that. I'm not saying that's about that no. But that was one of the reasons why the class of 1970 did not want to go to the Baptist Assembly. And I understood the part on Southport High. They had also their tradition. Now, when you merge the two schools together, War March of the Priests at a slow tempo wouldn't work out because y'all be in there all day when you put in 100 students in there. So it would be pomp and circumstances. But I think if they had just made a compromise, do it in the gymnatorium, switch the song, take War March out of the Priests out, it'd been good. It also, the other thing is, each graduating class, everyone that was in the band, they would get a chance to come back and sit back in their chair and play one last time. And that was some of the things that the kids from 1970 didn't get a chance to do, so they weren't too happy about that. Now,
Donnie, can you just stop just a minute and
Sure.
you or Liz give a little short synopsis of what happened in why 1970?
okay.
This was a controversy.
I'll be glad to. In 1970, basically it was the 69-70 school year when Southport, Brunswick County, finally integrated. And in 1969, the white school burnt down in January. And so originally what is supposed to happen is all three black high schools, the one in Leland was called Lincoln, the one in Charlotte was called Union, and the one here was called Brunswick County High School. They changed the name in 1965 because everybody, when they got out of here, they go somewhere, everybody thought they were from a reform school. So they got rid of the training school, because at first we just called it county training school. So when the powers that be merged, all of a sudden we had some clashes. They had them on the first day of school. You would think that World War III had broke out, and on the last day they had a big riot. But the biggest thing was the two schools, they didn't really mesh well together at the time. Now, before 1969, I think it was in 67, they sent home with every student a little piece of paper saying where they wanted their child to go to school at. Well, since I was coming up as a senior, my dad, as I said before, gave me the slip and said, you fill it out. So I looked at it and I said, let me see. I ride a bus, I go to a BCT, and it's shorter for me to ride that bus, and probably less controversial than to get on the bus to ride down to Southport High. So I struck BCT. Now, there were some students that didn't have that opportunity, like my good friend James McMillan. His parents were in the NAACP. And if you were educated or your parents were in the NAACP, guess what? They filled it out. And they sent a couple of students down. I call it the Jackie Robinson Project. They sent a couple of students down, the ones that they figured wouldn't be the ones that if someone used the N-word or something other, they wouldn't turn around and throw a Joe Louis punch. And that's what happened. And the same way, coming back the other way, there was only one student they sent. His mother sent him, his name was Woody. I can't think of Woody's last name. But Woody didn't have no problem over in the school.
It was a white child
Yes.
coming to the black school.
Yes, in fact, well, I think it's Woody McElroy, I believe is his last name. He worked at the City of Southport.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was there, because I have a picture of him when he was in the special ed along with William White, Regina's brother. William died a few years back. But yeah, but that was the big thing. Yes.
And special ed was college prep? Or
No,
special-
no, special ed was students that they felt had a learning disability or something, and they needed extra help. And so that's what that was. It wasn't a college prep.
So when the school burned down, the white students came to the black school for
Yes.
that year?
Yes,
Yes, and that's why they were fighting?
yes.
Okay.
And when you put parents in the mix, now you did have some parents in the white community was dead set against. They still had the old saying, it's like, hell no, we ain't gonna forget. And then you had some blacks. It was the same way, and we ain't either. And that's what created the fight.
Let me ask you this, Donnie.
Mm-hmm.
When they merged the two schools for that 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe later, was there enough space for that many students at the Brunswick County, or they had to stagger times, or how did they work that out?
Now, the way they did it is, see, Brunswick County training school went from the first grade to the 12th. So you had an elementary wing. Well, they took all these elementary students, and I think they left 8th grade to 12th. And in those classrooms where they used to have elementary students and grammar students, they replaced them. So they used that to put in from the 8th grade through high school. And some of the things they picked up was the band, and that was one thing that they did well, because I read an article with one lady, she said the only two good things that came out of the whites merging with the blacks was the band and the chorus. That was it. And I was saying, wow, there's probably a lot more good things than that. But anyway, yeah, that was one of the things. Nobody wanted to give not 1 inch. You
And
know,
then the next year they were out at Bowling Springs in the
No.
new school, no?
no.
It took a while.
1970, 71, and 72,
Oh,
because they had to build the school. Some people said that because of the attention they had at Brunswick County Training School, or Brunswick County High School, that's when they decided, well, we better hurry get this built. Because if you remember, kids from Shell Oak was already, Union was already going to Shell Oak, and the one from Lincoln was already going to Leland. And I don't think that they didn't have their problems either, because I remember, I think we were at Cape Fear Tech then, it was in 69, just before we got out. I was looking on TV, and it looked like it was a full-fledged riot. I mean, they were in an assembly, and they went crazy. To say the least, they went crazy. But yeah, there's always been tension between them. Now, most of it, I have to give credit to parents. Because a lot of the kids I know, I played with kids that if their parents found out that we were playing together, they'd kill them. But they didn't know. And vice versa. But that was the one thing, the reason why things was like that.
thank you.
No problem. Now we have a gentleman here by the name of Robert Dilworth. He took over the band in 1958. Mr. Riggs left. He was there from 58 to 61. Mr. Dilworth played saxophone. The reason I know he played saxophone is because in a couple of assemblies, he's a very good saxophone player. He played in those assemblies. Now, as you can see, he was there about 3 years, and he left. But the pictures I'm going to show you now were some of the members that was in the band during his era. Now this one right here, this one I said playing by ear. That picture is not VCT's band. That's North Carolina A&T's band. But the young man playing that is Richard Jackson's brother. His name is Alfred Jackson. And for those who use Willie Gore's reference, that's Willie Gore's cousin. That's another one of Melissa Jackson's great-grandchildren. He started off at the VCT band. A lot of those who started in the VCT band went on to North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central, and they played in the college band. This picture went all around the country. And I think the guy who took it won an award, because as you can see, the hat is too big, so he can't really see what he's playing. But he's playing. And so I decided to put that one in there because that picture was in, I think it was in, what was it, Look magazine or some other magazine, they had that picture in there. And I just thought it'd be interesting that you saw that. And he got his start under, I think it was Mr. Dilworth. Now the uniform over the years changed some. You are now looking at the drum section of VCT's band, 1960. You notice like the Army type helmets? Well, Mr. Dilworth, that was the look they had then. And that picture is taken somewhere, God, I don't know exactly where it is, but the gentleman on the very far left is none other than, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that is either Nelson Adams, former Altman here, or Danny Davis. Then there is the one next to him from the left going right, I believe that is John Archie Smith. Now John Archie Smith is an interesting story. He became a major in the Air Force. He died in the Air Force, but he played with the Knights band. Remember a band that Steve Carlson talked about? The Knights? T-Bo Rogers? John Archie played drums for him. Ralph Parker was a clarinet player. My cousin Follow Phil Joyner was a lead singer. And Alfred Jackson, the gentleman that couldn't see with a big hat, he was also in that band. Going a little bit off script, the Knights band was one of the first integrated bands in Southport. T-Bo Rogers was the founder of that band. And they were playing back in the 50s, late 50s. There's a story my cousin Phil told me about one time that they were going out to, I think they were playing something over on Oak Island, and he said he had a real bad cold. And they came out to get him to play, And he said he was so sick he couldn't go, so he said, well, why don't you get my cousin Richard Jackson? Because Richard also could sing. He sang in a quartet in the Air Force, as well as played trombone. And he says, we like it, but we need you. So he says, okay, go get me, in his words, go get me a pint of the rotten, gutted liquor you can find, and give it to me, and give me a half an hour, I'll be ready. And he said they wouldn't make the engagement. But the gentleman in the middle, with the drum major's outfit on, is Larry Parker. And I'll get to some of the drum majors we had. But that was the way they dressed in the 60s. You know, it's sort of like military. They had those helmets were bought at the local, there was a surplus store, Army surplus store, I think it was on House Street, back in the 60s, and that's where they got those hats from. They bought them, and they had those hats, the drum section had those hats. They bought them, took them to school, Mr. Francis painted them. They painted them white, because they were actually old Army helmets. So they were very enterprising in how they did things. Let's see here. I don't want to go past my time. John H. Finney. Mr. Finney was a band director. He was there for a short period of time, 61 and 62. And in a minute you'll figure out why. Now Mr. Finney had one leg that was shorter than the other. So he wore one of those high boots. But this man, like all those band directors, they would march in Southport when it's time for the Day Festival, when they're practicing. They start out in front of the school, I think like that picture Liz had. They start out in front of the school and they would march and play all over the city. I mean, they marched, and this man was keeping up with everybody. And I mean, he had one leg shorter than the other, but he could really move. And he was there for about 1 year. Now, what I'm going to do is, we're going to deviate a little bit because I don't want to get too far before I got the drum majors. First drum major we had at the school was named Elton Pete Jackson, another one of Melissa Jackson's great-grandchildren. Now, he was in the Air Force. After he got out of high school in 55, and he went to the Air Force, and he spent more than, I think, 30 years in his Air Force. His father, Elton Jackson Sr., Melissa Jackson's grandson, had a career in the Navy. He was in the Navy for many, many years. Then after him, there was a gentleman by the name of Ralph Harrison Parker. I think everybody knows him. He was a drum major. Keep remembering that. Original band, Ralph Harrison Parker. Drum major, Ralph Harrison Parker. Then there was Larry Parker, 1958 to 1960. Because 1960, Larry had finished high school. Then we had a young man named Bruce Davis, 1960 to 61. Then we had a female, Dorothy Roberts. She's probably taken Priscilla to the doctor today because those two were like that. They were classmates. She was there from 61 to 62 when she graduated. Then we have cousin Curtis Bryant. He became drum major around about 1962 until 65 when he graduated. But now remember this, in 65, Ralph Parker was the band director. So the band changed a little bit from your normal John Philip Sousa marching music to music like Shotgun and all of this type of music. He sort of jazzed it up. So since Mr. Finning had Curtis Bryant, now Curtis Bryant was about 6'4", put one of those drum major hats on top of him, and you get the picture. And most of the blacks from Southport always hung around Tom's drugstore. Is that Front Street or 2nd Street?
I can't remember.
Well, we both didn't know. We can't
Downtown, in Wilmington?
Yeah, downtown.
In Wilmington.
Yeah.
I think that's Front.
Okay, we'll call it Front Street.
Yeah.
And I think Market comes down in there. Well, the parade used to come down Front Street, go by the post office, and all the blacks from Brunswick County would buy Tom's drugstore. Now there's a reason for that. Right down the street a little further was the Mayflower Cafe. That cafe was owned by a black family called the Sneeds. And he owned a barbershop across the street. So every year when Zay Festival time comes, the band, everybody from Southport, congregated at the Mayflower Cafe, because she opened up early. And when it's time for the band to start, everybody goes up by Tom's Drugstore. Because remember, it's sort of like, this is like an intersection. Tom's Drugstore is right there. Well, when Curtis is coming down Front Street, he can see where Tom's Drugstore is. And so he changes the cadence, and all of a sudden, the majorettes, there was a video, I understand it was done, I would like to get my hands on it. The majorettes, the band, and everybody else, from that straight marching, they're in gear now. Even the whites who were down there from Southport. First thing they said, here come our band, because they knew that either Williston was going to be behind them or in front of them. Usually Williston was behind them, because whatever they did, Williston would try to outdo it. And so that was the era when they were getting people that could dance to be the drum major. Brings in another relative. Oh God, I got too many relatives in here. His name is James Miller, and they call him Summer. James Miller, he played in the band. I think he played saxophone, but in 1965, when Curtis graduated, James took over. Now James could dance. So what do you think happened? Music tempo, any new song that came out, they would use it. And the neat thing about it is, Ralph Parker knew all the latest music. Now he was a fan of Otis Redding, and some of the other reasons I know is I have some of his tapes. James Brown, I Feel Good, all this kind of music. And he would have them really boogie down. When they get in front of a review stand, they were just straight, you know. But then once they got down where the people from Brunswick County was, all hats off. And then the last one that I can remember was Patricia Price. We call her Pat Price. She was a drum major. You see her sitting in a minute. And Pat took over in 66 after James Miller finished. And I know she was there at 69 when she finished. Now who was there at 70? I don't know, because we left in 67. So let's see here. So all I did was I said drum majors 69 to 72, I gotta find out who they are. And now we have, this is Ralph Parker. The reason I did this like this, Ralph Parker was the longest serving band director there. Ralph Parker had been there from the beginning. I don't even think he was in high school when he started that band. And he told me a story before he died. We interviewed at a famous restaurant here in Southport, McDonald's. It's a true story. That's where he wanted to meet. So we went at McDonald's over in the kids' play area. We were sitting down and we was having a Big Mac. And he was telling me about some of the things that he'd done. Because after he left Brunswick County High School, Brunswick County Southport High, he went to UNCW. And he formulated, and he started the African American Studies program. There are a lot of people, in fact, there's a scholarship named after him. And it's unfortunate, Ralph died, I think it was a while back, 2007 or something. I'm trying to figure out exactly when he died. What, 2007? Oh, it was, well, after I went to the funeral. So they had an outside grave funeral, and his final request was to play Distant Lover for his wife. And that was a sort of a touching moment, but Ralph was a stickler for perfection. He was my civics teacher in the 9th grade. The class so we got the 9th grade, they had splitters in it too. Ralph Parker got half, Anthony Bud Davis got the other half. And so I got Ralph Parker. So I've known him since then, and it's amazing. He told a story about how when he was going to become when Mr. Gore wanted him to represent the school in the bricklaying contest at A&T. And he told Mr. Gore, he said, I don't think I want to do this. So Mr. Gore told me, okay, well, let me go in and see Ralph and Evelyn and see what they have to say. And Mr. Parker said, the next word I told Mr. Gore was, what time are you going to pick me up? So back then, the parents, the driving force in anything is your parents. You look at these schools now and everybody's talking about, well, the curriculum and all that. You can't teach your child anything if his parents ain't helping you. You can't expect a teacher to go out there and teach a kid that comes home, sits down, mom and dad or home or whatever, he pops a cigarette, and sits there and talks to his parents like he's one of them. If I had done that, guess what? I wouldn't be here. Every last one of us. No way. You know? Kids nowadays tell their parents what they want. That didn't happen. I don't want to look it up, but there was a story. This is true. I was in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, working on a cat tracker for Hess Oil. Me and my buddy John Dugas, now we was in there having dinner. Here comes this little boy in with a little Lord Fauntleroy outfit. You know, he's got all this, and his dad and his parents. Well, he gets in there, and he don't want to eat what's there, so what's he do? He gets up out of his chair, lays down in the middle of the floor, and screams as loud as he can. And John Dugas, my boss, he fought like a Frenchman. He said, he had a big cigar, he saw like Jackie Gleason. He said, he says, you think they let me borrow him for about 2 minutes? But this is where we're at now. Your children have to be trained. And Ralph Parker, he wasn't much older than most of us. When he started teaching, he was 22. And we had some in the 12th grade who was probably older than him. But I don't know. Okay, 1965. Ralph Parker is the gentleman with the suit on there. And as you can see, this is a picture of the band. Some of these pictures are a little bit hazy because I can't get the originals. And up there, next to Ralph Parker, if you look to your left, that was James Miller. We call him son. He's an Air Force, retired Air Force man. And this was the band. Judy Gardner, for all those who know Judy Gardner, I'm going to tell you where she is, but do not mention that. You see what that red stripe is there? That red stripe is coming right down on top of her head. That's Judy Gardner. But I didn't tell you that. But this was a band in 1965. It was a senior band. Now, this picture was taken at the 1966 Azalea Festival. And once again, Judy Gardner's in that picture. There's a lot of my classmates in there. Agnes Bernard is kneeling down on the left. On the right with the glasses, the shy lady, that is Harriet Frank Davis. She is now, I think, the chancellor, I forgot what college. And up there, we see Judy.
Back row.
Right there. Next to her is Janice Gore, another classmate. Then next to Janice, head sticking there is Willie Swain. The other one of them, Melissa Jackson, great grandkids. They're everywhere. Then the next one, I believe, is Deborah Galloway. Then there is Ann Clarity, she's down deceased. And next to her is Barbara Joyner. I won't say what she is, but just put her name is Joyner. And then the next one you see over there is, God, what's her name? It's my cousin Donna's sister, Wanda. Yeah, Wanda Moore. This was taken in 1966. This is after the parade was over with. And they were waiting to see who won between them and Williston. Because I'm telling you, there was a rivalry that you would not believe. And the thing, it's come from a 2A school, because a 5A school got more kids to choose from. But these kids were good. And the reason being is, they made it so they changed the school curriculum so they took 5 minutes off of each class to allow the students from out in the county to participate. Because if there wasn't, on this picture there would be about, I know there's about 3 or 4 you wouldn't see on there, because they all live in Bolivia.
What instrument did Judy play?
Judy played the bells.
Oh, okay, I couldn't tell.
She played the bells in a band,
Okay,
but she played the piano also.
all right, I knew that.
She's multi-talented. But don't tell her I told you that.
I know.
I do not want to get on Judy's bad side. You need to go out and find out later she was a relative. That was Lord. Now this is 1967. The young lady on the very out front row with the white uniform on, that is Patricia Price. That was the drum major. She was a new drum major. And the outfits had gone to blue and gold, they were darker. Ralph Parker even has on an outfit. You can see him in the back. This picture was taken in the gymtorium. Because all the pictures when we were doing high school, they were always taken in the gymnasium. We were very proud of that because there was a lot of donuts, hogs, you name it, sold to get that building. And when it tore it down, more people outside of Southport were not happy than inside Southport. I'll leave that one alone. Okay, now, here's a picture right here so we can get to the, what you call, this was the junior band. Now, some of these you'll recognize on here, and some you won't. For those who know Michael Clemens, he's on that front row. He has a saxophone, and there's Wesley Brown. Let's see who else is in there. There's quite a few, but see, Mr. Parker always had another band in the way. They were the junior band. In other words, they were the kids that learned. When you looked at the band, say, in 1968, 69, and 70, those are actually students because there's another one of Melissa Jackson's great-great-grandchildren in there. Every band, I think, had Jackson in it. If it didn't, it wasn't there. And there is Betty Jo Cowan. Remember her from the bank? She's in there. In fact, Betty Jo is, like she got a trombone in her hand, and if you look between, I'll tell you what, if you go on the right side, and you keep counting back, that back row, and you see two young men, one of them is, I think, Murray Griffin, and Betty Jo is a girl standing there. She was at the bank for quite a while, and she's deceased. Now, the gentleman with I guess the bass saxophone, that is none other than Reverend Jesse Smith. All right. This is all 67. The reason I know we got it from the book. This one right here is when you see them when they're in their marching outfit. This is 67 also. And as you can see, the drum major, Patricia Price, is standing over there. And Ralph Parker has on his uniform. This band was a band that brought pride to the school because it broke down barriers, the band and the chorus, that academia couldn't break down. Because when the whites came from Southport, and quite naturally when they met something from Wilmington, someone says, well, first thing, well, where's your band? The first thing, it's right there. You know, there was no color line on that band. And in 1970, which is my last slide, this picture is very blurry, I got it out of the book. The band is now integrated. And as you can see, there are whites in the sax section, on the trombone and trumpet. The two gentlemen you were talking about, Liz, that played trumpet, they're on the chair with the trumpet. But you also had them in the sax section also. That was the one thing that the white parents wanted, to be able to let their children play music. And so Ralph and the burning of Southport High made that a reality. Now, I'm not going to say that they didn't have problems. All schools had problems in integration because we don't view people as individuals. We view them, we put them along, everybody in the same class. If you like lasagna, then I said, well, Pat Curtin likes lasagna. Well, all white people must like lasagna. Okay, we all like. It's like, I know when I was traveling, some places was having chitlins. And I said, I don't like them. He said, why you don't like chitlins? I said, I don't like them. So he said, well, I said, don't stereotype me in this. But the band proved a lot of people wrong. At first, the county was not all that much into them having a band because they did all they could to make sure they didn't have it, money-wise. But the PTA, the Parents Teachers Association, made that happen. And this PTA was probably one of the strongest ones I've ever seen because it took people from Bolivia, Winnebago, Southport, what's called Zion Hill, where my family on every Sunday. They do it after church, because you don't mess with the Lord's time. There's no need to try to have it early. PTA, you forget that. And Mr. Baker would have on his suit. Sometimes the chorus would entertain, and sometimes the band. But that's what they did. And because of that, a lot of people that was in that band have gone on to do a lot of great things. Regina Alexander, you probably didn't see her, I didn't point her out, she was in that band.
When did she play?
Regina?
Huh?
I believe Regina played the French horn, I have to look, but she was in the band. There were a lot of people in that band. And then you had bus drivers who would drive the band around. Mary, did you ever drive the band anywhere?
A few times.
Okay.
Yes.
He's one of the band drivers. So he knows stories that I don't know, and I think some he might want to tell you, and others I don't think he want to tell you. Because, you know, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. Yeah, we're going to try to recreate a lot of this, and I'm going to turn those hour and a half of the original band members over to Liz and Bob, because they named everyone who was on that band. Every one of them. And it's amazing how well they did with so little. And I heard stories that Ralph Parker would stay up at night before a concert or something like that because someone had a valve sticking on a trumpet or something like that, or on a French horn, and he worked on it. They didn't have the money to send it out to a music place. Now, they went to Finkelstein's a lot. Anybody knows anything about Wilmington? Finkelstein's was a music store, but otherwise than that, it was something that it took the community to do. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. Does nobody have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to ask, can you remember a young lady named Estelle Price from right here in Southport that was very, very good in basketball?
No, but I tell you one I forgot that I do remember is your aunt who played clarinet. Carolyn Reeves. Yeah. See, a lot of those, she was in the original band. Because I remember seeing her. They all came through the Mayflower Cafe. Because there wasn't that many places back down in the 50s that blacks could walk in so readily and easily, especially if they used the bathroom. So the Mayflower Cafe was a watering hole. The older adults, they could go in, get themselves a beer. The younger ones get them a hot dog or something other, and they go watch.
Yeah, real good hot dogs.
Yes. But it was a time in our history that some like to forget. There were some incidents like the time Mr. Reeves and I were run out of the Dixie Pool Hall in town Wilmington. This is in the late 60s. And that was a very fun-filled incident. So we all remember that Cape Fear Tech. In our class, I think we had, what was it, 2 blacks and 10 whites. So we all decided to shoot pool. So they said, well, let's go to Dixie Pool Hall. Okay. So we get there and they rack the balls up on it. Yes, ma'am.
You said something about or talked about the band playing in the juke joints.
Yes.
How many clubs were there in Southport back then?
Okay, let me see. Herbert Brown's
And
played.
did they play in white and black?
Yes, any place they would take them. It wasn't the whole band.
Right.
It was just a select group. Ralph Harper was one of those.
Combo.
And when Ralph and T-Bo Rogers, now I heard a story from my cousin Follow, the rest of them can't deny it or whatever, because they're all dead. He's the only one alive. He said T-Bo originally wanted to come down and get Mr. Gore to teach him bricklaying. So when T-Bo decided to get this band up, and nobody has a picture of that band. Nobody. And Susie wrote about it, the nights, because my cousin Alfred, the gentleman with the hat that was too big, his daughter saw it in Nashville, Tennessee, and she called me up, and she said, do you have a picture of that when my dad was in the band? I said, no. But he had an integrated band here in Southport, little old Southport, back in the 50s, and late 60s.
So where did they play? My question was how many?
Well, T-Bo Rogers or the other band?
Well, whatever the combo
Okay,
was.
the one that BC BCT had, they played at a place called Rooker's Place. You know where Friendship Baptist Church is?
Yep,
You know where Cabbage Park is?
yep.
That was Rooker's Place. Rooker's Place claim to fame came when a gentleman named Lewis Spalding was shot, didn't kill him there. And Lewis Spalding built boats for Lewis Hardy. Most of those boats that Lewis Hardy had, Lewis Spalding built them. He was from Fernandina Beach, Florida. And he married Nehi's widow. And after he got shot, he left him back to Florida. He died in 2000. I found where he died in 2000. Exact. But they played the Dewdrop Inn. In Southport, you had the Dewdrop Inn, the Bebop Inn, Rooker's Place, Jasper's Place, another relative. What's this one of them? Herbert Brown's place. There was 5. Anywhere that they could get in the crowd. Now they had to be older, so these were about 18 years old because quite naturally they wouldn't let the kids come in there and play in there. But they played in there, and what they did was they took the money and they gave it to the school to help buy new instruments and other things they needed, sheet music and all.
The Dewdrop was still here when I came here in '96.
The bebop, they changed it into a house. But the bebop, the thing about it was owned by a gentleman named Freddie Elmer Smith Sr. Freddie Elmer Smith Jr. was at, I think he studied music at Boston Conservatory because he was a trumpet player. But now he got out of high school before they got the band. So before they had the band, anybody who was trained in music was either done by Miss Estelle Swain, God help her, she was a rough lady, Miss Coral Megan, or Miss Annie Francis. And they taught music. Miss Annie Francis is Dolly Evans' daughter.
Were they all on Ward and Caswell Streets, or all the clubs?
The clubs are on different streets now. Let's see, the Dewdrop Inn, I think that's Caswell.
Wasn't it?
It's on Caswell, and then when you come down Caswell, before they put that road through the baseball field, that made a lot of people angry. You make a right turn, then a left. I think the other one is Clarendon, I believe, one of them.
Yeah.
And that's where we found Jasper's Place. And when you got up to, I think it was Owen Street, take another left, Rooker's Place. In fact, Mr. Parker was married at Rooker's Place. But you know the club, they still had it, but yeah, he was married.
I don't think Ralph's been dead more than about 5 years.
You know, it seemed like it would be longer, but you're probably right. You had a question, please?
Not a question, just a comment. Our home economics teacher, Mrs. Morris, 2 years ago, she was still living in Bloomington, I think somewhere on 3rd Street.
Yeah, she was. I went to her house because I put together I compiled together a little book on BCT, the same one I gave you. And I happened to tell Marvin Graham, he's related to Stedman Graham. In fact, his brother is a judge out in San Diego. He's a member of BCT. And Kenneth Graham was in that band in 1970. And Ms. Morris called me, she says, I understand you have a little booklet. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, where's mine? I said, you home now? She said, yeah. I said, give me about an hour and a half, I'll be over there. So I went over there, but Mrs. Morris, she's up in her 90s. Mrs. Morris and Mr. James Frank are the only two besides Ms. Dozier Miller that are still around. And Mr. Frank was choral director. He also played piano. And he also played in the Army. He played in France. I think it was somewhere, in some big cathedral. But there's a lot of good musicians. And his aunt, she was a clarinet player, and she also helped teach some of the younger ones coming in how to play the clarinet. Anyone else have another question?